Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into a mini masterclass on a seriously tricky engineering law question today. If you're prepping for the NPPE, the National Professional Practice Exam, you already know that the line between passing and failing usually comes down to some really strict legal nuances. So let's take a real-world scenario straight from our source material and break it down to its absolute core. Here's a quick look at our syllabus for today's lesson. We're going to walk step by step through the question itself, the underlying legal principles, the right and wrong answers, and the key terms you really need to know. All right, let's jump right into the exact scenario you might actually face on test day. I want you to really put yourself in the shoes of the professional in this scenario. You've done the work, you haven't been paid, but you're talking with the client. You're negotiating in good faith, right? You delay filing a formal legal lien because you truly believe these negotiations are going to succeed. And honestly, you want to preserve the relationship. But while you're talking, the statutory deadline to file that lien completely expires. The clock runs out. So what exactly is the result? Here are your four options. A. Equitable relief may revive the lien. B. Statutory lien rights are lost regardless of fairness. C. The claim converts to unjust enrichment. Or D. The limitation period restarts upon refusal to pay. Take a quick mental note of which one you'd pick. Let's figure out how to approach this systematically. Before we solve it, we need to know exactly what part of the NPPE syllabus we're dealing with. This question falls squarely under engineering law. More specifically, it's testing your grasp on statutory rights and deadlines. When exam designers write a question exactly like this, they aren't just checking if you memorized a textbook definition. They really want to see if you understand how incredibly rigid statutory law is compared to other types of law when you're actually out there practicing. And this completely nails the core tension the question designer is trying to measure. On one side, we've got statutory law. These are rigid, hard and fast rules and strict deadlines created by legislation. On the exact opposite side, we have equity and common law, which is all about fairness, good faith intentions, and what feels right. The exam is directly testing your ability to tell the difference between the unforgiving nature of a statute and the fairness-based principles of equity. Now that we've got the framework down, let's find the correct answer. So here's the crucial point. The correct answer is B. Statutory lien rights are lost regardless of fairness. If you chose B, awesome job. But it's totally vital to understand why this is the answer. Statutory liens, like a builder's or construction lien, they don't just exist naturally. They are entirely created by a specific statute. And because the statute gives you this incredible tool to claim against a property, you absolutely have to play strictly by the statute's rules. If the rules says you have 45 days, you have exactly 45 days, no exceptions. Look at this direct quote from the source material. Statutory lien rights are lost regardless of fairness. It sounds super harsh, doesn't it? But it's completely true. It literally doesn't matter if you are negotiating in good faith. It doesn't matter if the client swore up and down they'd pay you tomorrow. The statute simply does not care about fairness or your good intentions once that clock stops. When the deadline passes, poof, that specific right to a lien vanishes. Okay. Let's systematically tear down the conceptual traps in the other three options so you don't fall for them. It's actually kind of fascinating to see how the examiner tries to trick you here. Option A traps you into mistaking equity for statutory law. Option C tricks you into confusing a specific lien right with an entirely separate legal claim. And option D, that one preys on a misunderstanding of how legal timers or limitation periods actually work. Let's zoom in on Trap A, the idea that equitable relief may revive the lien. This is the ultimate fairness trap. As an engineer, you might naturally think, well, hey, I was acting ethically and negotiating, so a judge is going to be fair and give me my lien back. But remember our concept discussion. Equitable relief absolutely cannot magically revive a strict statutory deadline. Equity does a lot of great things in law, but rewriting a hard-coded statutory expiration date? Yeah, that's not one of them, no matter how unfair the situation feels. Then we have traps C and D. Option C suggests the claim just converts to unjust enrichment. Option D suggests the limitation period restarts. These options are basically trying to trick you by mixing up apples and oranges. Losing your statutory lien right doesn't just magically convert your claim into unjust enrichment. That's a totally different legal action you'd have to go pursue separately. And the overarching limitation period to sue for breach of contract, that doesn't restart just because a negotiation failed. You've simply lost the lien tool, end of story. Let's lock in these precise legal terms so you are totally ready for any variation of this question on the exam.
First up, statutory lien. Think of this as a special superpower granted by the government to secure payment by putting a claim against the actual property you improved. But the catch is huge. It is completely contingent on strict adherence to the statute's rules. If you don't follow the recipe exactly, the cake just doesn't bake.
Next is equitable relief. This is a court-granted remedy based on fairness. If someone tricks you, a court might use equity to make things right. But, and this is the vital lesson for today, equity generally cannot step on the toes of a clearly written statute. In this specific context, the statute always reigns supreme over equity.
Then we have unjust enrichment. This happens when someone gets a benefit at your expense and it would be totally unfair for them to keep it. Now, yes, if you lose your lien, you might still be able to sue the client for unjust enrichment or breach of contract, but it is a separate and honestly potentially much more difficult legal battle. It's definitely not an automatic fallback status that your expired lien simply transforms into. Finally, the limitation period. This is the overarching, strict time limit within which a lawsuit must be filed. While negotiations are great, they absolutely do not pause or reset this legal countdown. If the client refuses to pay, that's really unfortunate, but it doesn't give you a fresh new clock to start your legal action.
Let's wrap up this lesson with a memorable rule of thumb.
You're going to want to remember these 3 steps when you sit down for the NPPE. First, identify the topic. Know you are in the realm of engineering law. Second, instantly recognize the rigid, unforgiving nature of statutory deadlines. And third, absolutely do not let your human desire for fairness override the cold, hard statutory facts presented in the options.
If you remember just one golden rule today, let it be this. In statutory law, deadlines don't care about your negotiations. Memorize that. When you see a question about liens, hold on to this truth, and it's going to guide you right past all those conceptual traps.
I'll leave you with this provocative thought to carry into your professional engineering career. We've just seen how easily a well-intentioned professional can lose a really powerful legal right. So, if statutory deadlines are truly this absolute, what internal processes will you set up in your future practice to ensure you never, ever miss one? Think about that for a bit. Keep studying, stay focused, and use these legal principles to really anchor your understanding. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.